Health IQ podcast. Tiny needles, big results, the science and art of acupuncture.
Are you looking for a more holistic approach to your healthcare that does not involve medications? Today we will be visiting with Dr. Tina Guerrero about acupuncture. My crew today is Joyce Runyon and Bobby Hockaday, and I am Brenda Bishop. Thank you, Dr. Tina, for coming back. We've had you before, and you've been talking more about nutrition and those things, but we know that you have many other talents. And so I thought we'd start by just talking a little bit about your degrees and what all you do have, because you bring a wealth of knowledge to Tucumcari.
Well, thank you for having me. I have a Bachelor of Science in Human Biology, a Master of Science in Nutrition and Dietetics, a doctorate in chiropractic, and a doctorate in acupuncture. So
that's amazing. We were just talking about how you couldn't have done all that without being a little genius, a little child genius. And you offer all those services here in Tucumcari.
Yes.
So that's wonderful. So we're talking today about acupuncture, and I know it's been around a long time, but could you give us a little bit of history around acupuncture?
Acupuncture is very well known in Asia. So they say it's been around for about 5,000 years.
Wow.
Different Asian cultures, their acupuncture is a little bit different. So you have Chinese, Tibetan, Korean, Japanese, India, all of them have different types of acupuncture. The style I do is Tibetan Chinese, so it's kind of a combination of the two. And so with acupuncture, you are inserting little needles into different acupuncture points to activate the body to get a certain reaction in the body. So.
Okay. What are some of the principles involved or the techniques that you're using around acupuncture?
Okay. So with acupuncture, there's a little bit different than like traditional Western medicine. We still do a diagnosis. We look at the tongue for discoloration, just different shapes and things on the tongue. We also check the pulses, and the pulses are a little bit different in acupuncture because there's 6 pulses on each wrist. Each pulse goes to a different organ, so it kind of tells us what the organs are doing in the body. We also can do muscle testing to see if there's a weakness on one side of the body or if it's weak on both sides of the body. So we kind of look at the body a little bit different than your typical exam would be. And then from that, we determine a treatment plan. And then depending on what we're working on, we'll determine how long of a treatment sessions you would have. So, and then in the acupuncture, we use little tiny needles to do the acupuncture. Some acupuncturists will use electrotherapy or laser, but I do the actual needles.
Yes. And so that's sort of scary because we all have these visions of these big, long needles sticking in us, but they're not as scary, right?
Yeah, they're little tiny needles, and the thickness is usually about the size of a thick hair. So it's not like your big hypodermic needles. They're usually about 3-4 inches maybe, and they only go in about 1/8 of an inch into the body. So
not very far.
Not very far at all.
And so you said the number of treatments vary, but like how long is a treatment?
A treatment is usually about 30 to 45 minutes. Again, it depends on the condition we're treating. So sometimes, like for pain, if we're addressing pain, sometimes that can just be 30 minutes. But if we're treating like hormones, then that can be a 45-minute or a little bit longer. But typically, you're looking at 30 to 45 minutes for a treatment.
And you said it. The needles are actually stimulating your body to do, like what?
There's 2 different theories of acupuncture thought. One is that you're activating the nervous system, And so you're either suppressing the nervous system so that you're not feeling pain, or you're stimulating the nervous system so that you're activating things that aren't functioning. Like if you have numbness, then it would activate that so that that clears out the numbness. The other theory of thought is that it is stimulating the circulatory system, and it's increasing blood flow or decreasing blood flow. And of course, blood flow, that's where your nutrients are, so that could speed up healing and things like that. My opinion, it's just my opinion, is that you're doing both. That because if you've ever looked at the circulatory system and the nervous system, they overlap so much. So my opinion, you're actually activating both of those.
They're sort of running in the same direction.
Yes.
Well, and I could see where if you're getting oxygen to other areas of your body, then that would help with pain and neuropathy and those kinds of things too.
Absolutely.
So what kinds of issues can you take care of with?
Okay. Well, acupuncture has a wide range of conditions that you can treat. So the bulk of it is a lot of people think of pain, which it does do a lot of work with pain. But again, it depends on the type of pain. I've worked with people with sciatic pain, headaches, neuropathy, like you already mentioned, toothaches, different things like that, or just range of motion joint pains. It's real beneficial for that. But I've also worked with people with hormonal imbalances, so women that have horrible menstrual cycles. It works really good for that, or balancing the hormones if your hormones are out of balance and not, again, it kind of goes back to women's cycles, but it can affect men as well. We just don't see the cycle so much in men as we do in women. It can work with women who are pregnant when their labor hasn't started and they're supposed to be delivering. You can jumpstart their labor and get that going.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I would have liked that.
I was going to say, there's been a lot of women that have had shortened labor because of having acupuncture done. It can also benefit, like if you have a cough or cold, or you have, like we talked about a little bit earlier, the joint pain, range of motion, like if you have frozen shoulder or things like that, it can benefit that. It also works great for like intestinal issues, liver issues that that you may have. It's just acupuncture is a slower process, so you don't get instant, immediate notice. Some people do, but most of the time it takes a little bit of treatments. And that's why there's usually a treatment protocol. So on average, the treatments are usually about 10 treatments, and it's about 1 a week. Occasionally you'll need to see more than once a week, but that's kind of a rare situation.
And I think when I was reading some stuff, I even saw about mental health.
Yes.
So you can, I mean, that just I don't even understand how that could work. But
well, because again, the type of acupuncture I do is Tibetan Chinese. So it's a little bit different than most acupuncturists in that I do 2 sets of needles. So the first set of needles is to balance the body and get everything moving like it's supposed to. And then the second set, we direct it to the areas where you're having concern. So if you are having emotional issues or instability like that, it can just be a very calming treatment. Just getting the body balanced can just bring all those emotions and kind of calm you. And so that you can kind of focus better and go, okay, this is more what I need to deal with than this. And so it just is more of a calming effect with it.
well, and the room's sort of calming.
Yes.
So I guess that would help as
Yes.
well.
Yes. We try to do a lighted room, but very low light. And if you like music, we try to do a light music and not terribly loud and obnoxious, but we try to make it suit the individual that is getting treated.
Well, and I tried it, and I thought it was very relaxing because it was just laying there concentrating on being still. And that sort of is relaxing
Yes.
for me.
Yes.
So when I was looking up some stuff, they also talked about acupuncture being more recognized now as a form of treatment in Western world because they've been doing more research and things.
Yes.
So can you talk about that kind of effectiveness or
The
efficacy?
acupuncture came to the United States where it was a little more utilized back in the 70s. Now it's become much more prevalent across the United States. And so they are doing a lot more research. There's different hospitals like Johns Hopkins and the Mayo Clinic that they do more research on acupuncture than they've done in years past. And so there is a lot of research in the United States that you can find like on PubMed. But just in general, just a Google search of acupuncture research, there's some research that you don't have to pay for and stuff like that. But they've been doing research on Parkinson's and showing some benefit for Parkinson's disease and just some other conditions that a lot of times you don't really think about for acupuncture. You typically would think about your medical doctor, but for infections and strengthening the immune system and things like that, that there's more research showing acupuncture is beneficial.
Cool. So I also had a friend who did it for allergies and thought it was very effective to help. So is that getting your body back in alignment?
Yes. Again, once you balance the body, then the whole part of the thesis is that it kicks in and the body will help itself. And sometimes it's just out of balance and just needs a tune-up, kind of like you would with your vehicle. When you get a tune-up, it works a little better. So the same theory kind of works with the body. When the body gets back in balance, then it can take care of itself and it can activate the immune responses, and it can decrease like the histamines and things like that go along with the allergies and sinus issues.
Cool. So what are some of the most successful things to use acupuncture for?
Well, that's a good question because
it sort of varies on person.
Yes, I was going to say because everybody is different. I think the coolest thing that I have used is I worked with a lady that was in labor and her labor has stalled, and so she was hooked up to the monitors. And so when we started doing the acupuncture, the monitors immediately started showing contractions. And so it was an interesting aspect because I don't usually have access to those kind of equipment, but because she was already in the hospital, it was really cool to see how fast that her contractions started kicking back in.
Wow.
And working. So that's always a cool one, but also if you can help someone get through birth without as much labor, that's a nice thing too, because it's I helped someone that was getting through having a tough labor and was getting through it much better with some acupuncture.
And maybe no pain meds.
Yes.
Less pain meds.
Well, I was going to say without the
inducement.
No, it's the shot.
Oh, the shot. The
Epidural. Without the epidural that can cause people issues with. So.
Yes. So that's interesting. So what else would you like to tell us about acupuncture that we may have forgotten?
Well, I kind of hinted at it. Most of the acupuncture is, like I said, about 10 treatments. Of course, the more severe the case, it may take longer. And then there are other cases that it may only take 3 or 4 treatments, or there's other cases where it could be 15 or 20 treatments. So it just kind of varies a little bit. The other thing is, I know we kind of touched on this, is that people get terrified when you hear the word needle, is that it's not, I mean, you will feel the prick of the needle as the needle goes in, but it shouldn't be terribly painful. Now, the more weak an area is, you can have a little more pain, but it's not like getting a shot from a doctor. Those can be painful. And so I just let people know that it's not terribly painful to get acupuncture. There is some discomfort, but it's not overly painful. And a lot of people have described it as, well, kind of like when you get bit by a mosquito. That feeling is kind of how when the needle goes in, how you feel. So,
I just got to thinking about arthritis. Can you help with inflammation?
Can help with inflammation. Now, specific with arthritis, it kind of depends on the arthritis. And then again, it kind of depends on the individual. Some people I have worked with arthritis, and they've had really good results. And then other people have seen no results. So it kind of depends on what they're going through and how intense it is as to how they respond. And you never know how anyone's going to respond to a treatment. So usually what we say in acupuncture is by the third treatment, if you haven't noticed a positive response, then probably acupuncture is not going to be a benefit to you. So that's a way of kind of not having to go through the full 10 treatments. If by the third treatment you're not seeing a benefit, then it's probably not going to be beneficial for you, at least for that condition. Now, it might help with something else, but not that condition.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, most important question, if somebody was interested in seeing you for acupuncture, how do they get a hold of you, and what's the process?
Well, the best way is just to call the office, and the office number is 575-282-2222. Or they can swing by the office. We're at 325 South 1st Street. It's in the old Dr. Salt's building at Huffman Counseling and Wellness, and they can talk to the receptionist at the front desk and get scheduled. There is some intake paperwork, but other than that, that's about it. And then we do an initial exam, and then they're set them up for their treatment protocol.
Wonderful. Well, we thank you for coming to talk about acupuncture. It's something that some of us have tried and found successful. So thank you for that. We have a little gift for you.
Well, thank you.
A nice little cell phone holder.
Absolutely.
And we hope that you'll come back sometime and we'll talk about chiropractic.
No,
that would be something different.
No problem. I appreciate you having me.
And we'd like you all to come back as we will have another topic of interest that might raise your health IQ too.
Special thanks to our guest contributor, Dr. Tina Guerrero, Doctorate in Acupuncture, a Bachelor's of Science in Human Biology, Doctorate in Chiropractic and Master's of Science in Nutrition and Dietetics, and our host, Brenda Bishop, Quay County Health Council Coordinator.
Podcast crew, Director, Robert F. Hockaday. Producers, Robert F. Hockaday and Joyce Runyon. Camera operator, Robert F. Hockaday. Second assistant operator, Joyce Runyon. Editor, Joyce Runyon. Music provided by David Morris. Funding for Health IQ provided by a New Mexico Better Together grant. Brought to you by the Quay County Health Council. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Quay County Health. If you have any content ideas, reach out to us by email, healthikpodcast@gmail.com. More info about this topic and more available on our Health IQ blog, QCHEALTHCO.UNCIL.org.
This podcast was created solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for advice from a healthcare or mental health professional.